So about 3 months ago, my wife quit her job, and there are a few reasons why, and we're going to get into that. One of the main things was my wife is a perfectionist, and what I mean by that is she likes to do everything perfect. So that involves her being a wife, a mother, and her job. She wants everything to go as perfect as it should go. So she's going to throw everything she can to make sure things go the right way. And in the midst of her doing that, she began to lose herself. And it wasn't just this particular job that did it, but we found out that there's been a lot of jobs that really we can kind of go back to and was like, we go down that same path over and over again. Because again, she wants to do everything right. And by wanting to do everything right, she puts so much into those jobs that she tends to lose herself. And if there's anybody that's watching that's a mom or a parent or in a relationship or that deals with being a perfectionist, man, it's windy out here. That deals in being a perfectionist, you understand what I'm talking about. Because being a perfectionist is a blessing and a curse, right? It's a blessing and a curse being a perfectionist. Because on one hand, being a perfectionist helps you to do things the right way. It helps you to be able to do things the way you know it should do it. But on the other hand, you put so much into doing that you tend to lose yourself. And that's what we found out that she was doing. So for us, what really turned out to be a blessing, it really was a curse. It was a curse for her being a perfectionist because she put so much into everything else that not only did she lose herself, but she began to lose out on just being around family, doing family time. And what I mean by that is physically she was there, but mentally she wasn't always there. Like physically she was there with us when we were doing things with the boys, or we would go out, do some things like that. Physically she was there, but mentally she was shacked out. She couldn't enjoy things because she was always worrying about if I sent this email or if I did this or should I have said that or could I have done that, you know? And it was always that back and forth of uncertainty of whether this was done or this was done. You know, I can remember several times where we were just out and about doing things and she would have her laptop with her, working and just not being tuned with nothing that we had going on. We were at this football game one time and she had the laptop at the football game. Instead of us enjoying the game, she's working on the laptop, trying to make sure work is done, all these things are done. And she missed out on having fun at the football game. So it's those things like that we really had to sit back and was like, man, something really has to give. Like, we can't live our whole lives with you just constantly being unavailable mentally. And then the other thing was not really being there for the boys. Now, we got 2 kids, and I've told y'all that before, 11 and 6. One is going into middle school and the other started kindergarten, and they really needed us there. And with both of us working long hours and just not being available all the time like they needed us, it put a strain on them. There was a lot of times last year, I know that my oldest, he was, making sure that our youngest ate and things like that. Because again, I was working, she was working. My wife worked at home too, so they weren't at the house by themselves. But it was just, my oldest was doing things that you really didn't need to. And then with him transitioning over to elementary school, we had you trying to tell him that, hey, it's going to require so much studying and things like that. You're not going to be able to just get in there and just, like you were doing at elementary school. You had to put some work in. And we've seen some of that come to light so far. Now he's making A's and B's right now, but a lot of that is because of my wife. She's studying with them, doing the study guide, and and doing those type things. And then we found ourselves falling into the same trap again. Her being the perfectionist and her wanting him to succeed so much in school that she began doing stuff that he need to be doing, studying. And I call her on my break and see what she's doing. She's looking up on YouTube, looking up science class, looking up English class, making sure he got his study guides and all that while he's sitting back doing anything. Well, that's another part of that issue that I have that I was telling y'all about her being a perfectionist. She put so much time into making sure that he's okay, that he's got his studies, he got this, that he coming home reaping all the benefits, not really studying like he need to, but we'll get into that into another video. And then again, losing herself, not taking care of herself, not doing things that she needs to do because she put so much into him, making sure he has everything that he needs. And then again, it was another example of that, going down that same path of why she quit her job in the first place, because she put so much into everybody else and not into herself. And I think a lot of people go through that. You put so much into wanting everything else to be okay that you tend to forget about yourself. We put so much into jobs, we put so much into our careers that we tend to forget about everything else, and then we find ourselves in worse situations. We find ourselves lost, not knowing where we're going, in the same rut all over again. And that's where my wife was at. That's where she was at in life. Put so much into work, so much into us, so much into being a mom, so much in being a great wife, that she lost herself in the process. And me being her husband, that was a tough pill for me to swallow too, because I knew there are things that I can do better. And husbands that may be watching, we got to admit it, there are areas where we need to improve on. So we had to sit back and talk about that. Man, what do we need to do? So, you know what? You need to quit. And by you quitting, I want you to focus on self. Put self first. Make sure that you got everything else okay. Making sure that we can be there for the boys like we need to. And that's where we're at right now. That's the situation that we're in. So she hasn't worked in probably 3 to 4, maybe 5 months now. And it's been great. It's been great so far. She's starting to get back into some of the things that she enjoys to do, trying to make sure she stays on that path. And, and there are going to be some challenges, of course. There are going to be some challenges to that, because now we're going down to a one income family now. And we know how society is and how the world is right now. Man, going down to one income, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a challenge. But the other thing that we said that we really need to do if we want to make this work, and that's trusting God in the process. Trusting God with everything that we do. And that's going to be the key to this. Trusting God throughout this whole transition and this whole path that we're going to take. That's going to be the key to all of this. You see, because he's going to be that foundation that we need. You see, if you don't have a strong foundation, everything else is going to fall. And we also found out that we've heard putting so much into everything else that we sometimes forgot about God. We didn't always include him in what things we had going on. We weren't always available to him. We weren't always doing the things that we needed to do. So we knew then that we really going to have to put all of our trust in him. Let him be that foundation and build everything else on top of that. So that's where we're at right now. Putting all of our trust in him, allowing that foundation to start with him, and then everything else is going to prosper like it needs to. And I think that those that may be watching, you all may have to start over like that too. Seeing what your foundation is, what your foundation is built on. Is it built on yourself? Is it built on you thinking that you can handle everything on your own? Or is it built on putting your trust in God and understanding that if it starts with him, then everything else is going to be all right? So our foundation is going to be built on God. That's how we're going to get through this thing. Now, are there going to be some challenges along the way? Yeah, of course they are. There are going to be some major challenges, I'm sure, of me working, her not working. But the one thing I do know is that if I trust God, in spite of everything that I'm going through, he's going to provide all of our needs. He's going to provide everything that we need. For those of you who may be watching today, you need to understand that God will give you everything you need if you allow him and if you trust him. If you trust God enough to believe that he'll give you everything you need in life. To me, that's the key to everything. You see, because when you trust something, that means you are relying upon that. And God is very reliable. I can't think of one thing that's more reliable than God. How about you? Or can you think of anything that's more reliable than God? I can't think of. Because I can think of many situations that I've been in, and there's no way I couldn't have gotten through that if it wasn't for God. Because he's always been there. Family has let me down, friends have let me down, jobs have let me down, but God has never let me down. So there's anything that y'all can get out of this today, is to know that when you rely on God, everything else can be made possible. So my wife quit her job because we needed to focus more on God. We needed to focus more on her. We needed to focus more on our family. And the more I do these videos, the more we're gonna, catch up and see how things going. I really want you guys to take this journey with me because I want to show you all just how awesome God can be if you allow him to do some amazing things in your life.